Hello, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. You're watching Mixtress video. And I am doing the hashtag Scooby Decks, hashtag Big Bad Decks, the Buffy character VR, started by Rumor Haven. Since everybody already has their Buffy deck but me. How many of us tarot tubers have a Buffy podcast? I should have my Buffy deck by now, but I don't. That's okay. I'm not bitter. Let's play a game, shall we? Okay, so I added a lot of my own characters. I skipped characters that I didn't feel like doing. I have multiple decks for some characters. This is going to be a long one. Okay, let's start with, who should I start with? I don't know. I'm going to get a highlighter out, actually, so I can highlight the names as I go through them. You know what? Let's start with Buffy. Buffy she gets the job done. She is a serious slayer, but she also is snarky and cute and girly and yeah, like at her essence. Not the Buffy of like the last 2 or 3 seasons that got way too serious, but you know, the snarky Buffy, the quippy Buffy, the Buffy from seasons 1 through 3, you know, before she got jaded. And that is Pulp Girls Tarot. This is oh my god, strength. I think of this as kind of a Slayer card anyway. So how perfect is that? So this deck is an RWS knockoff that's very cute and sweet. So this is a good time to talk about Giles. Giles is, and I think this is probably what most people are choosing, I'm sure, with this tag, is a more traditional deck for Giles. So I picked the Rider Tarot deck for Giles. He's going to use something tried and true with lots of occult symbolism. I guess I can't really I wanted to flip through them side by side. I mean, I guess I can hold the cards up. So Buffy, as a Slayer, is sort of the whimsical, cute, not so serious version of what Giles is. Okay, I am going to take the time to put this shit back because, well, it needs to be done. Because I am in too small of a space to just have cards out everywhere on the floor. Okay, this can get set aside because right now I'm keeping Pulp Girls out. Okay, so that's Buffy and Giles. I don't have an answer for Xander, so we're skipping Xander. Willow. Okay. I have 2 decks for Willow. Willow from seasons 1 through 4 is Halloween Tarot. Another one that's in order. She is, she's a little spooky, but mostly cute. She's got a little bit of a cult, but she's mostly sweet. She's mostly bright colored. She's mostly got some humor to her. And she loves cats. I don't know if Willow loves cats. I mean, what happened to Miss Kitty Fantastico? She disappeared with no explanation. And I would like answers. So that's Willow from seasons 1 through 3. And then Willow becomes Moon Power Tarot. She's a bit darker. She's a bit more like, I'm weird. I'm a weird girl. She's a little bit edgier. She's a little bit scarier. So that's later seasons Willow. I guess I am just going to sort of go in order on my sheet here. Next is Cordelia. Cordelia is, on the surface, so sort of the same reasons, because I did watch Julie's VR, and she picked a deck that, like, maybe on the surface doesn't seem that serious, but actually is. Did she? Is that the one for Cordelia? Now I'm getting confused. Okay, I'll just go with my own reasons. Not sure if I'm copying off someone with this or not, but I think that Cordelia she's straightforward. She's a Queen of Swords. She gets the job done, but she's very, like, she does have a bitchiness to her. So I chose Darkwood Tarot for Cordelia. Because some of these bitches are bitchy. They are bitchy. And they are pretty. The men are salty goodness in this deck. Not necessarily my version of salty goodness, but maybe Cordelia's. This Darkwood is Cordelia. Next, Oz. Oz is, now I'm going with the entire trajectory. I'm going with, like, the Oz that, okay, so after the series, so there's 7 seasons in the TV show, and then the storyline of Buffy continues in the comics. And at one point we get, like, an episode or an issue or, like, a whole chunk of issues where we meet back up with Oz again. And Oz is settled in Tibet. He has full control over his wolfy powers. He lets it out when he wants to. He has a family. He's very happy, possibly the most stable character in all of the Buffyverse. And he's very in touch. He's completely made peace with his animal self. So, I chose Animal Wise for Oz. Because I think that the sort of vibe from Ted Andrews' Animal Wise deck is just, it's really sweet. It's very respectful of all the animals in nature. And the animals were very thoughtfully chosen for each and every card. So this is it. This is Oz. I need to move this light, I think. Is that better? Yeah, that's better, because then I can get a little bit closer with the cards. Maybe. Anyway, this is Oz. Oz is Animal Wise. This was a hard tag for me to commit to because I really wanted to get it right, and I kind of was taking it very seriously. Just gonna put that one back there. Okay. So that's Oz. Tara. Okay, Tara was a hard one because I think it's so smart that in Julie's video, and she said this about Tara before as a character, she thinks of Tara as the High Priestess. And that's perfect because she is the High Priestess in the new Buffy deck. So it was hard for me to choose just one deck to represent Tara because I see her in every deck. I see her in Vintage Wisdom. I see her in the RWS. I see her in so many different decks. But something that Oz and Tara have in common is they're possibly the most mature of anyone in the whole Buffyverse. The most mature two characters, and Tara is the most perfect girlfriend in the universe, and Oz is the most perfect boyfriend in the whole universe. And how the hell did Willow choose? Because she's gay. So it was easier for her. Whereas me, oh man, I don't know what I would do. But I think that the deck that I chose for Tara, which is Woodland Wardens, makes sense as a counterpart to Oz. Oz is animal-wise. Because even though I do see, like I said, I see Tara in everything. I really do. But I especially see her in decks that have a kind and gentle energy. Decks that meet you where you are, that hold your hand and tell you the truth with kindness. You know, she's not in all, she's in all decks because she's the High Priestess. And I feel like, I view Tara as almost like a mystical being. Like she's probably was named after the goddess Tara, right? Don't you think? So she is in every deck. But I would especially see her in animal decks because animals don't have malice, you know? And Tara did not have any malice. Tara is, for sure, my favorite, good character, I think, is Tara. No question. Most of my favorite characters of Buffy are, morally, or either amoral or morally ambiguous. But Tara is everything, and I love her very much. Did I bring out... I don't think I did. Because the other one that was neck and neck with Woodland Wardens for the final choice for Tara was Tarot of the Magical Forest. But I didn't bring that one out, so that's fine. Because at least I had one to represent her. Okay, Anya. Anya is a Queen of Swords. Anya gets straight to the point. Anya does not beat around the bush. Anya is timeless. You know, she really should have gotten more respect in the series as a whole because she was the oldest character in all of Buffy, right? Because she was 1,100 years old. This might be a weird choice, but I chose Marigold Tarot for Anya, another of my very favorite characters. And this is a deck for me, I based this choice on the fact that this deck to me looks like it could, even though it was just created 5 to 7 years ago, it looks to me like it's timeless. It looks to me like it could have existed since, I don't have any Marseille decks in my possession anymore. I might have picked, if I had a selection to choose from, I might have picked a Marseille deck for Anya because she might have had a Marseille deck back in the day when she was in her Vengeance Demon days. She might have had one. But I picked this because it's very timeless, because it's the closest thing probably that I have to a Marseille, actually, even though it's really not close to a Marseille. And it is, I also chose based on the conversation. With Marigold, ever since a few months after getting it, I associate this deck with Queen of Swords and the Goddess Kali, because when I get it out, it is an extremely clear answer. I will ask it any question I ask this deck, it will give me an answer that is extremely straightforward, forthright, immediate answer. There's no fucking around with this deck. Just like there's no fucking around with Anya. So that is Anya. Next, we have Dawn. So, I am not a hater of Dawn. I know most Buffy fans, it seems to me like most Buffy fans hate Dawn. I am a defender of Dawn because when they first wrote her character, they wrote her to be a much younger character, but then they hired Michelle Trachtenberg, who was older, and they forgot to readjust the script to go with the person that they fucking hired. So especially the first half of her first season, season 5, she's acting way more immature than she should be acting. However, towards the end, right now I'm watching season 7 for my Buffy podcast. Just link in the description below, or not link, but just the name of my Buffy podcast is, "What's this bitch talking about?" To which the answer to that question is every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer exactly 20 years after its original air date. So if you're interested in that, I am finishing it up right now because the show ended in May 2003. So I'm about to end my Buffy podcast. I mean, the podcast is still going to exist. I'm just, this bitch won't be talking about Buffy anymore soon. So anyway, all of that is to say, right now I'm watching season 7, and Dawn is such a fucking cool character at this point. And she continues on to be pretty cool in the comics as well. At one point you find out that she still has powers as the key, and she is still a key to open different dimensions. So she can go into, there's a whole storyline in the comics where she ends up going into all these different dimensions, and it's really cool. Or I remember it as being really cool. It's been a long time since I've read the comics. So I picked something that is a deck that was made to be simple and easy to read by anyone, that has fun colors, dare I say even Lisa Frank style colors. But it's actually a really good deck. It actually has something to say. And this is a recent reacquisition for me. I bought the knockoff to Mystic Mondays because I cannot shuffle the real deck. And I've bought the real deck twice. So I finally just was and I missed it. So I bought the fucking knockoff so I can shuffle it. That's what happened. So, Dawn is Mystic Mondays. Because there's more to her than people give her credit for. But she's also she's not somebody she doesn't ever talk down to anyone. And that's something that I think this deck has. It's meant to be simple. The whole idea for Mystic Mondays is that you can be mystic on any day of the week. That you don't need to have all this esoteric knowledge of tarot. You can just pick this up and read with it. And I mean, sometimes you don't necessarily how does this say 6 of Cups? Maybe you can't pick this up and read with it. But the idea with this deck is for it to be not intimidating. And I do think it succeeded at that. And so that's what I chose for Dawn. Because I wanted something cute and girly that also had more substance than people give it credit for. I mean, I don't know if people don't give Mystic Mondays credit. I mean, I don't hear people talking about it that often, but it's probably because the cardstock is the shittiest cardstock that has ever existed. So that's why I bought the knockoff. That's Dawn. Next is Angel. Okay, Angel gets kind of complicated. Because I essentially have Well, I was going to have 3 decks for him. I was going to have an Angelus deck and a Who Angel Really Is deck, and then a Who Angel Wants People to Think He Is deck. But, okay, let's just go with, if you go to the core of who Angel is, especially when you, if you sum him up based on not only his character on Buffy, but also his character on his own show, he's very noir. He likes, classic convertible cars, and he has this sort of schmaltziness to him. So, and he's really more whimsical than he would have you believe, particularly in Buffy. Because in Buffy, he's always, reading, some old battered, philosophy book in French or some bullshit. Or poetry or something. My theory is, on the outside of those books, you think it's French poetry, but what it actually is that he's taken the cover of a classy piece of literature and put it over a pulp fiction book. What he's really reading is trash, you guys. You heard it here first. Angel reads trash and he doesn't want anyone to know it. So, I chose Pulp Tarot for Angel. He is whimsical. He's fun. He can be fun. I mean, this is who he actually is inside. He's projecting that sort of broody, obsessive crap. And sometimes that is who he is. But this is who he really is. If Angel didn't have angst, this deck would represent Angel. Okay, let's go ahead and, this is a good start to segueing. I want to talk about Drusilla and Spike, and then I want to talk about Angel plus Drusilla plus Spike. So I have instead of over-explaining that, let's just get into it. Let's talk about Drusilla. Now, Drusilla is... Julie picked the perfect deck for Drusilla, which is Blythe Tarot. I don't have that one. It's too expensive for me. If y'all want to buy it for me as a gift, I will accept it graciously. But until then, I chose Les Vampires Oracle for Drusilla for a few reasons. One, we've got the doll-like imagery of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's art. We have that. We also have the guidebook is written it's sort of written for teenagers almost. And it has every card has a whole section on the Les Vampires speak. And it can go deep. It can go deep. It has the ability to go deep. But it also is a little unhinged, and it's a little infantile, just like Drusilla. And there's an actual image in this deck. I want to find it. It reminds me of Drusilla. I think of Drusilla every time I see it. So I've got to get to that image. So we'll see how much. This is my favorite Jasmine Beckett Griffith image of all time. I love it. Really love it. Okay, let me find it. This one. This one reminds me of when Drusilla had to carry Spike out of the church in season 2, most likely, I think. This reminds me of her in that moment. When she has, she's in that red dress. I mean, it's not this red dress, but, she's in that red lace dress. She has just gotten her power back. After, because when we first meet Drusilla, she's, really weakened, and Spike is, taking care of her. And then they get Angel, and they have to drain some of his blood to give to Drusilla to get her strength back. And she gets her strength back, and Buffy's like trying to burn the building down or some shit. And Spike gets injured, and Drusilla then has to save him. And this is that moment. So, this is Drusilla. Maybe I should have kept Poltero out as well, because we're leading up to something here. So we have Angel and Drusilla. Next is Spike. So Spike has 2 decks because he, like Angel, likes to project a certain image of himself that is not who he actually is. So we have Spike and Spike Rising. So I'll give you Spike Rising first. This is who Spike wants you to think he is. He's this sort of like, you know, he's punk. He wants you to think that he's this punk, hardcore guy. And in fact, I want to find an image that reminds me of, I mean, this is kind of Spike, right? This is the goth Lloyd Dobler. I don't know who this is supposed to be, but that's the goth Lloyd Dobler. Okay. Sorry, I want to find somebody that looks particularly like, okay, so here's who Spike wants you to think he is. Right? There's other examples too, so I'm going to find them. Sorry if this looks crappy, guys. This is who Spike wants you to think he is. Anybody that looks particularly punk in this deck, this is who Spike wants you to think he is. But who he really is, underneath it all. Oh, I want to end with, okay, here's another very punk looking dude. So that's who Spike wants you to think he is. This is who he projects, who he tries to project. But who Spike really is an Anne Rice vampire. He is a heartbroken little William the Bloody Anne Rice vampire. Let's see, one of the, like, princes in particular. Let's see. This is Spike. He's an Anne Rice vampire. He's sophisticated. He's lovesick. He is delicate. He's not punk. He's romantic goth. Where are we? Okay, yeah. So Spike Rising is Gothmancy, and Spike, who he really is Tarot of Vampires. Okay, so when you get in season 2, when Angelus comes back, and we have Drusilla, Spike, and Angel together. I guess this isn't, but I mean, like, even Angelus, he was like very joyful about the mayhem that he was causing, right? So when they are together, they become Ludi Lesket. So Ludi Lesket is a deck, like I've talked about it a lot because I think it's a very well drawn out world. It is a world in which men are scary, and in many cases they're scary vampires. It's still sort of like, it's got the element of the sort of like creepy doll element of Drusilla. It's got the it's set in New Orleans, I feel. It's set in New Orleans, just like Tarot Vampires is, in my mind. Like, I'm saying it as if it's fact, but this is how I conceptualize these decks. And I mean, I don't know what it has that matches to Pulp Tarot, but I'm just saying the world of Ludi Lesket is men are scary, women acquiesce. And when the three of them were together, it was very much about power. It was very much about who had the power, and the only person that had the power was Angelus. And the other two were kind of scared. I mean, Drusilla didn't act scared, but it was because she had accepted her role as being just gently, reluctantly acquiescing to whatever fucking Angelus wanted. So that's the big bad of season 2, is the three of them together as Ludi Lesket. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my brain. Tell me if you agree or don't. Okay, now I have to put all of these back. Okay. Here's this. And I can't even see my list because of all the boxes everywhere. Alright, let's start to put this situation back together, because that was holding that up. Alright, Drusilla, you gotta go back in the box. To go to the corner like Edith. Kaufmancy. Okay, where are we? So that is Angel, Spike. Okay. Next we have Faith. So Faith is a character that the level of trauma that Faith has gone through in her life is like, we don't even know. We don't even know everything that she's gone through. We'll never know. She won't tell us. She will never tell us how much she's gone through because it's too much. So I don't really have the level of trauma in a deck needed to portray Faith, but I think towards the end of the series, the Faith that exists at this point is someone who has atoned, someone who is starting to put themselves back together again. And in order to put yourself back together again, you kind of have to ask yourself some hard questions. So the deck that I chose, and the deck that I chose for Faith, is Dark Mirror Oracle. And also, Faith serves as the dark mirror to Buffy. You know, that's her whole purpose whenever she first came onto the scene, was to serve as the dark slayer, the darker version of a slayer. Like, what happens if you are isolated? What happens if you don't have all the resources that Buffy has? You are Faith. You are fated to suffer. So Faith turns the dark mirror onto Buffy, onto anyone she meets, really, because she pushes their buttons, and she asks, and she gets, I mean, if you're paying attention, then you're going to be asking yourself some hard questions if you see yourself reflected in her. And I think she is using an oracle deck like this. She wouldn't tell anyone that she's doing something like this, because this is almost like self-help, right? So she keeps this deck hidden under her bed in a weird shoebox or something. Old battered shoebox. But this is the type of, like, she does shadow work in order to better her own psychological trauma. By the end of the series, she is starting to heal. And something like this deck maybe helped her with that, let's say. So Faith is Dark Mirror Oracle. Okay, we've done Anya, Dawn, Angel, Spike, Faith. We've done Spike and Drew. Okay, that leaves... Oh, wait, no. We have... Okay. These are just a couple of little extras. Okay, 3 extras, kind of. So, one of my favorite characters And I know he's not well loved, but I love Andrew. I think he is funny, whimsical, doesn't take life too seriously. Yeah, he's done some shitty stuff, but I think for the most part the shitty stuff that he did is because he, like there's that quote in season 7 of Buffy, where like somebody is trying to describe Andrew, like, is he evil? Well, he's not evil per se, but he's kind of like a mushroom. He gets close to it and he picks up its flavor. So what I chose for Andrew, who, if he's living his best life, I think Andrew would be like Cosmic Tribe Tarot. I think this is probably the gayest deck that I have. Could that have come up at a more perfect moment? The gayest deck that I have. And doesn't this scene just sort of remind you of that moment that Andrew was imagining whenever he was imagining him and Jonathan and Warren like frolicking through a forest wearing Grecian robes with like harps and shit, like frolicking around in a field. We are as gods. That whole situation. So I think that at his core, Andrew is this. He is a fucking rave. He is joy and light. He is like everybody just having a good time and being naked. And this is Andrew. And then another character. So Andrew wasn't one. I haven't been like doing this in any particular order or even pointing out whenever I'm choosing characters that Rumor Haven had chosen versus ones that I chose. I'm just giving you characters and decks, so it's all over the place. Please watch her original video if you want any kind of structure, because you're not getting that here. You're not getting structure here. But I did want to mention Jenny Calendar. So the most techno-pagan deck that I have, and Jenny Calendar died in, let's see, it would have been season 2. She died in season 2. So she died in 98 or 99, and this deck was published in 98. So I feel like this is a deck for sure that Jenny Calendar had, because it has this sort of computery art. I would definitely call this deck techno-pagan, and she calls herself techno-pagan. Absolutely, Jenny Calendar is Crow's Magic. She also, like, I think probably had this sort of, like, I see this deck as being, techno-pagan, like, techno-shaman. It's got animal energy. It's got, it's weird. It's got computer-style graphics. I feel like she would be drawn to this deck, and she would have had it in her collection. For sure. So that's just kind of an honorable mention, Jenny Calendar. And I know I'm going to think of other characters that I should have done, but is this last? Last but not least, Glory. I'm not doing all the big bads, but Glory from season 5 is Nefertari's tarot. Because I could see her, she wears almost exclusively red and gold. And this deck is blingy beauty. So I definitely think, and she would have something, like if she were using a deck, she would have something that seems very old. And this one was made to look very old. And it would be something very pretty. She's very much about the aesthetics. So I do think that she would have something that was blingy and beautiful to look at, but also seemed very old. So there you go. That is my Scooby decks and Big Bad decks. A little bit. Basically just, I only did 2 for the Big Bads. But I just did not have a deck that matched the Master or the Mayor. Or the First. I don't know how you're going to do the First as a tarot deck, because it's non-corporeal. Anyway. But I guess in the sense that, like, the First shows up as anyone dead. So you could pick, like, something, there's a spirit deck. But hey, all decks, like Grace says, all decks are phone lines to the spirit world, right? But, yeah, that's it. I guess I can just stop talking now. This was a really fun tag to do. I'm usually not about that, like, parade of decks life at this point in my life, because I don't want to make people want things, but it is fun. If you're going to have all these different representations of art, sometimes you're going to want to pull them out in particular categories and think of them in different ways, and that's why something like this is super fun. So thank you to Rumor Haven for making this tag, and it is distracting me a little bit while I'm waiting for my Buffy Tarot to get here. Which apparently if you order things from Amazon, it takes longer. Apparently if you don't have a Barnes & Noble in your town, it takes longer. I'm not bitter. It'll get to me when it gets to me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching.